Week number 10 of the 2025 fantasy football season kicked off on Thursday Night Football with a certified heater between the Raiders and the Denver Broncos. In today's video, I'm going to help you guys right your wrongs or build on the lead that you may have acquired on Thursday Night Football. We're going to be breaking down my top 20 quarterback and tight end rankings and tiers for week number 10 of the 2025 fantasy football season. I cannot believe that it is already week number 10. If you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. I love you guys so much. I hope you do enjoy today's video. So without further ado, let's get to my top 20 quarterback and tight end rankings and tiers for week number 10 of the 2025 fantasy football season. We begin with the high-end must-start quarterback ones, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen is going up against his sons, the Miami Dolphins, this week. This is going to be, on paper, the 8th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis. I fully expect Josh Allen to take us straight to Pound Town. I don't think this is going to be a close game at all. Last time these two teams played back in week number 3, Josh Allen was the quarterback 5. He has been a top 9 quarterback in back-to-back games. And while I do understand that this hasn't necessarily been the greatest Josh Allen season ever, this is a guy that you rely on week in and week out as a high-end quarterback 1, and that is not going to change in such an easy matchup up against the Dolphins. Then we got Lamar Jackson going up against the cold like Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota in terms of a matchup for quarterbacks. This is the 20th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis. When healthy, Lamar Jackson's been the quarterback 4, 3, 3, and 9 this season. Last week up against the Dolphins, he was 18-23 for 204 passing yards with 4 total touchdowns, 5 rushes, 14 yards as well. The Minnesota Vikings offense definitely looked pretty solid up against the Detroit Lions last week. So if this game does have the ability to end up popping off being a super high-scoring game, that I think Lamar Jackson has a good chance to finish as the quarterback 1. And even if this isn't a super high-scoring back-and-forth affair, Lamar Jackson is so efficient at running the ball that he could finish as the quarterback 1, even if this isn't a big back-and-forth game, or if the Baltimore Ravens just end up bodying them and the game's not close at all. Now we move into tier number 2, the mid-range must-start quarterback ones with Drizzy Drake May, Justin Herbert, the pervert, Jackson Dart, Jalen Hurts, as well as Baker Mayfield. Now, Draco May, the Iceman, going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. In terms of matchup at the quarterback position, this is the 19th best matchup. Drake May has been very consistent this season. Just 2 games this year outside of the top 16 at the quarterback position. Last week, he was the quarterback 16, and the 3 games before that, he was the quarterback 2, 10, and 2. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers matchup reeks of points. I feel as though this is going to be a very high-scoring game, and while not having Kayshon Boutte definitely does suck for Drake May, at the end of the day, they have a lot of pieces in this offense that he can throw the ball to, so I am not worried at all. Then we got Justin Herbert going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers at home in LA on Sunday Night Football for the quarterback position. This is the 5th best matchup on paper. Justin Herbert has been a top 4 quarterback now in the last 3 games, so why rank him any lower than that in a matchup that is projected to be very beneficial for the quarterbacks? Then we got Jackson Dart going up against the Chicago Bears in Chicago in terms of a matchup. This is the 6th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per game basis. Jackson Dart is on fire, NBA Jam style quarterback 7, 13, 3, and 3 over the last 4 weeks. Going up against the Chicago Bears is definitely a wet dream matchup for quarterbacks. We saw recently Joe Flacco absolutely drop a hammer on them in that game. I understand that the Bears still did end up winning that game, but we did see such a great game from Joe Flacco. I would expect a big game this week out of Jackson Dart, who, while he doesn't have the best weapons at his disposal, should be able to make light work of this matchup. Then we move to Jalen Stop It Hurts going up against the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau on Monday Night Football for the quarterback position. This is definitely far from the ideal spot, the 24th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per game basis, but Jalen Hurts has been a top 8 quarterback in 3 straight games. A.J. Brown is healthy. Devontae Smith is healthy. They're coming out the bye week. I understand that this is definitely not a game that you would expect to be a back-and-forth rock'em sock'em robots affair. Super high scoring, tit for tat matchup. But even if this is just a closer game, Jalen Hurts could rush in 2 touchdowns in any given game. He feels like a very safe asset on your team. And to be honest with you, unless he was going up against the worst matchup ever, you are going to rank him highly due to what he can do on the ground. Then we move to Baker Mayfield going up against the New England Patriots at home in Tampa. This is going to be the battle of Tom Brady. Very, very fun game. Sadly, Tom Brady, I don't think, is on the call in this one, even though he should be. So maybe he is. I actually don't know. This is the 22nd best matchup for quarterbacks on a per game basis. Now, prior to the bye, Baker Mayfield really started to fall off the edge of the earth, right? There were a lot of people are saying that Baker Mayfield is the MVP in the National Football League. A lot of people were glazing Baker Mayfield for what he did early on the season. And then week 7 and week number 8, he scores 12 fantasy points in week 7. Week 8, prior to the bye, up against the Saints in a mouth-watering matchup, he scores just 4 fantasy points. He's missing guys left and right, dudes that are wide open. He's just sailing the ball over him. But I do believe that this is the come back to earth party. Now, normally when you say come back to earth party, it's like, hey, this is a guy that's severely overperforming. They're going to come back to earth. But in this scenario, Baker Mayfield's been severely underperforming, so I think he's going to get back to his normal as at least a top 12 guy, but he is a guy you definitely trust. Now we move into tier number 3, the low-end quarterback ones. Caleb Williams, Danny Dimes, Matthew Stafford, and mono man Sam Darnold. Now, Caleb Williams has had 4 straight matchups that are just so great. He goes up against the Commanders, the Saints, the Ravens, and then the Cincinnati Bengals. He's the quarterback 10, 27, 20, and the quarterback 1. So 4 great matchups in a row, 2 games inside the top 10, 2 games where he is outside of the top 18. So is Caleb Williams trustable? Fuck no, baby. He's not trustable, like an uncrustable. He's not the most trustworthy quarterback out there. But when you go up against a Giants defense that allows the 7th most points to quarterbacks on a per game basis, after Caleb Williams and the Cincinnati Bengals just went to war last week up against each other, I do expect another big showing out of Caleb Williams. Then we got Daniel Jones going up against the Atlanta Falcons. This game is over in Germany, Berlin, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Now, this is a rough spot for the quarterback position, the 27th best matchup. So Daniel Jones, who turned into a turnover machine last week, I would not be shocked if he went out there and threw an interception or 2 up against the Falcons, if the Falcons were able to punch him Mike Tyson style and punch the ball out of his hands, causing a fumble. But at the end of the day, even with such a shit game up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, where Daniel Jones goes out there and looks like Stevie Wonder, he still is able to finish as the quarterback 17 on the week. I do think he's going to be a lot more conservative with the football in this game and not put things into harm's way. He has been a reliable top 12 option prior to last week for 3 straight games. Basically, the whole season, you have been able to heavily rely on Daniel Jones. So while it does deep down still feel a little bit disgusting that Daniel fucking Jones is in your lineup, I think you have to feel good about him at this point in the season. Then we move to Matthew Stafford going up against the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco. Now, in terms of a matchup on paper, this is going to be a mid-range matchup, the 15th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis. Matthew Stafford is on an absolute tear. He's leaving defenses looking headless like the horseman that rides around, without his head. That's why he is the headless horseman. Quarterback 8 last week up against the Saints, 4 touchdowns, 280-plus passing yards. Quarterback 4 the week prior, the game prior, I guess, because they had the bye week of week number 8, and he didn't score any points. Last time out up against the 49ers, he ripped them a new asshole, 30 of 47 for 389 yards with 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Matthew Stafford is a guy that now a lot of people are giving him the Gawk 9000 special, talking about how he is the MVP in the NFL, and frankly, I don't think that's all that crazy of a statement. Final guy here is going to be the mono man Sam, the man who sees ghosts. Kids see ghosts sometimes. Kids see ghosts sometimes. Spirits going up against the Cardinals this week. Now, the Cardinals defense made Dak Prescott look no bueno last week in primetime, the 25th best matchup for quarterbacks. But Sam Darnold has just been so consistent this season. I get a few weeks ago in primetime up against the Houston Texans, things didn't go too well. Sam Darnold had his worst game of the season outside of week 1. But really, outside of week 1, he has just been a safe, high-end QB2 to low-end quarterback 1. We saw the ceiling a couple of times this season, 29 points up against the Bucs back in week 5. Last week up against the Commanders, he slapped them silly, 4 tugs, 1 INT as the quarterback number 5. I just feel very good about Sam Darnold at this point in the season. Him and JSN have a 5G LTE level connection. Now we move to tier number 4, which is going to be the high-end quarterback 2s. Jacoby Brissett, Jared Goff, Jordan, love me tender, love me sweet, as well as JJ McCarthy. But before we break down these quarterbacks, the rest of the quarterbacks, and then the tight ends in today's video, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description, you will get a free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus funds, as well as if you deposit and play. You deposit your $10, you play $5 on the pick'em, you receive an additional $100 in bonus funds or in bonus entries. How does the pick'em work, you might ask? It is incredibly simple. You make at least 2 picks on the players higher or lower. If those picks hit, you get paid. If you do multiple other picks, then the payout will be higher, but you have to hit all the picks. Make sure you guys do check that out. Promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description. Now, Jacoby Brissett is a guy that expert consensus rankings have as the quarterback 18. He is currently my quarterback number 13. What is the difference between me and the expert consensus rankings? It's just that I guess I have watched the guy play and the expert consensus rankings haven't. 3 straight games in a row as a top 12 quarterback. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like Jacoby Brissett is the savior of the Arizona Cardinals. He's going to turn this franchise around. I think if you think that, you are a little bit loco, in my opinion. But going up against the Seattle Seahawks defense that allows the 17th most points to quarterbacks on a per-game basis, after rocking with 3 straight games as a top 12 quarterback, what makes me think that he can't just do it again? I talk about this all the time, but when a player gets hot, you ride the hot streak. Now we move to Jared Goff going up against the Washington Commanders. On paper, the 4th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis. My biggest problem with Jared Goff, I say this every single week, is Jared Goff does not need to unload the clip and score 4+ touchdowns. He doesn't need to throw 300+ yards to win games. So what you will see happen is Jared Goff will look good out there. He'll be very accurate. He won't put the ball in harm's way. He has just 3 interceptions on the season, but he doesn't need to go bananas for the team to win the game. Up against the Commanders, they might get an early lead, hand the rock off to Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. They farm an Eiffel Tower over the defense, and that is all she wrote. So while I think this could be a big game for Jared Goff, if the Commanders offense isn't able to fight back into this game, then this might end up just being, where he's the quarterback 15 through 18, which is kind of just something that we've came accustomed to this season. Then we move to Jordan Love going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. The exact same thing I just said about Goff can be transported and said about Jordan Love. Jordan Love is on an offense that has Josh Jacobs, a guy that can rush for 3 touchdowns in any given game. And they have a solid backup running back as well. He just lost his best red zone piece in Tucker Kraft mac and cheese. Jordan Love does not need to throw 3+ touchdowns to win a game. Now, he's been the quarterback 1 up against the Pittsburgh Steelers in that Aaron Rodgers revenge game just 2 weeks ago. He was the quarterback 6 up against the Cowboys. Now, being the quarterback 6 up against the Cowboys is not something you earn a fucking Medal of Honor for, right? Just because you beat the shit out of the Dallas Cowboys doesn't magically crown you as the king in the North. But at the end of the day, going up against the Eagles, I get this might be more of a snooze fest type of game, and I really just mean not as much of an offensive firepower type of game. The 16th best matchup for quarterbacks, Jordan Love typically finishes in this range. It's just kind of praying and hoping he's like a top 5 quarterback. This just doesn't really seem like the game where that happens. Then we got JJ McCarthy, Mr. 9 himself, calls himself number 9, fucking Timu Jackson Dart himself. Bro lost all of his aura once Jackson Dart got into the league, because I got the JJ McCarthy, the Anakin Skywalker type of look. But, Jackson Dart's just better than J.J. McCarthy. Now, J.J. McCarthy went out and beat the Detroit Lions. I will give him a round of applause for that. Congratulations, J.J. McCarthy. That was a pretty good matchup up against the Lions, the 10th best matchup, but hey, he was the quarterback 13. This week he faces the Ravens, and the Ravens are the 9th best matchup. Now, the Ravens defense has looked significantly better as of recently, so that is a number that is a bit hyperinflated, I'll be honest with you, but JJ McCarthy should be trailing in this game up against Lamar, having to throw the ball. So while I still don't think the verdict is 100% in on JJ McCarthy, I think if you have to play him, you go right ahead. Now we move to tier number 5, and this is really the last range at quarterback where I'm actually comfortable playing them, the mid-range quarterback 2s, Justin Fields as well as Marcus Mariota. Now, Justin Fields going up against the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, the Browns have a great defense, and obviously Justin Fields is the type of guy that takes more sacks than Bonnie Blue on a weekly basis, so if he just gets rocked 10 times by Myles Garrett and friends, I wouldn't be shocked at all. The 26th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis, but Justin Fields has the ability to just run for 100-plus yards, to run in multiple touchdowns, so while Justin Fields is not a great NFL quarterback, he's great in fantasy football. In the games that he actually completed this season, he has been a top 12 quarterback in 1, 2, 3, 4 of those games. I'm not going to act like Justin Fields is this uber safe option for you, but if you need an upside swing, even in a tough matchup like this, I could see Justin Fields as a top 5 quarterback. Then we got Marcus Mariota going up against the Detroit Lions. Now, Marcus Mariota to me seems much more like you're waving the white flag, right? You're kind of just accepting Marcus Mariota is mid. He's going to do okay. He's got a good matchup up against the Lions. They should be trailing the 10th best matchup, so he'll be fine, but I don't really expect Marcus Mariota in big 2025 with the offensive setup that the Commanders have right now with all the injuries, that Marcus Mariota is going to go out there, ball, drop his nuts in the mouth of the defense, and be a top 5 quarterback. He feels fair as a top 17, top 18-ish type of guy. Now we move to tier number 6, the final tier in today's video, the lower end quarterback 2s. If you are in this range, things feel significantly worse, in my opinion. We got Aaron Jones, like he plays quarterback, right? Aaron Rodgers, Mr. Discount Double Check, Mac Jones, Bryce Young, and Michael Penix Jr. Now, my ranking of Mac Jones might be a little bit low for some people, but we'll talk about that in a second. Now, Aaron Rodgers is just not the most sexy quarterback to play in fantasy football because it's hard to make a strong argument for him to actually go out there and be a top 5 quarterback. He feels like if you're in a 2-quarterback superflex league, if he's your quarterback too, you're just fine getting the 15, 16, 17 points he's going to get you. But if you're expecting a huge showing to win your matchup, you're just not going to be getting that in a tough matchup up against the Chargers, the 30th best matchup for quarterbacks. Now we have Mac Jones. Now, last time these two teams played, he was the quarterback 10, but that was a few weeks ago. This is a 49ers offense that really just runs on Christian McCaffrey. Now, Mac Jones is good enough to win them games, but as of recently, he hasn't been as good as he was earlier on the season. Quarterback 20, 14, 25, and 22 over the last 2 weeks, which is why, again, in a matchup like this up against the Rams, who allow the 28th most points to quarterbacks on a per-game basis, I think it would be a little bit egregious to rank him higher than this, while I do still think he's a talented player. Then we got Bryce Young going up against the New Orleans Saints. Now, Bryce Young, if he was giving us the numbers he was putting up last season towards down the stretch of the season where he was going crazy, I would be sitting here banging the drum aggressively for Bryce Young in the 13th best matchup for quarterback, but let's just keep it a $150. He has just 2 games inside the top 12 this season. Every other game outside of the top 20. Quarterback 29 last week in that crazy win up against the Packers. So while deep down, I still believe in Bryce Young, it would be foolish for me to just come on here and act like he's a must-start option or anything better than this, even in such a great matchup. Final guy is going to be Michael Penix going up against the Indianapolis Colts. This is at Indianapolis, but it is in Germany. Set the alarm, 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Colts, the 18th best matchup for quarterbacks on a per-game basis. Michael Penix is all over the place. I would not be shocked at all if Michael Penix went out up against the Colts and scored 7 fantasy points. I also would not be shocked if he scored 20-plus fantasy points. That's just kind of the roller coaster ride of Michael Penix this season. Now, once he truly develops the connection with Drake London like we saw last week, right? He's the quarterback 11, so if he just feeds Drake London 10-plus times, he is going to have great success in this game. If he doesn't do that, and he tries to spread the ball out more. You get the ball, you get the ball, you all get the ball. This could be a dreadful showing out of him. Now we pivot to the tight end position in tier number 1, which is going to be my high-end must-start tight end number 1s. Now, this is a tier that you basically already knew who was going to be ranked in here. Trey McBride, Rowan Gadsden, as well as Tyler Warren. If you guys have enjoyed today's video thus far, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. If you are new to the channel, whether you are new to the channel or not, make sure you leave a like on today's video. Now, Trey McBride, it's as easy as A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Shout out to Michael Jackson in this game. Doesn't matter how good or how bad the matchup is. This is the 9th best matchup for tight ends on a per game basis. It could be the worst. I'm still playing Trey McBride. Trey McBride has crazy touchdown upside now with Jacoby Brissett. It's crazy that getting rid of Kyler, now the motherfucker scored 4 touchdowns in 3 games. Maybe Trey McBride wasn't as allergic to the end zone as I thought. 3 straight games inside the top 6 with Jacoby Brissett under center. Then we got Rowan Gadsden going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the 3rd best matchup for tight ends on a per game basis. Gadsden has been a top 10 tight end over the last 3 games, top 13 tight end over the last 4 games. Now, my biggest issue with Gadsden is not his ability. It's that they have a lot of cooks in the kitchen. They have Keenan. They have Lyle McConkey. They also have Quentin Johnston. So while they have a lot of cooks in the kitchen, though, he should get his 5+ targets with the upside of getting around 8+. So again, 3 straight games inside the top 10. Wet dream matchup. You're obviously going to play him. Then we got Tyler Warren going up against the Atlanta Falcons. Now, this is the worst matchup for tight ends on a per game basis. But again, it is going to be very, very, very difficult for someone to talk me off of Tyler Warren this week. I get we try to play the matchups in fantasy football. I love looking at the matchups. I think they're important. But at the end of the day, at the onesies, you're starting your studs. Tyler Warren hasn't been as reliable as he has been all season for you to just brush him off, throw him off the edge of the earth after a game as the tight end 26 last week when he was the tight end 12, 7, 3, 11, and 2 over the games prior to that. So again, I get Daniel Jones, Indianapolis Jones shits the bed last week up against the Steelers. I just don't see that happening in this game. I just think he plays better. My only worry is that the game is overseas, and overseas games are typically very, very weird. Now we move to tier number 2, which is going to be the must-start mid-range tight end 1s. These are all guys inside the top 7 here that you feel really good about. Once you get outside the top 7, there becomes a lot more question marks. Now, George Kittle, he's been all over the place. I mean, he is definitely a large question mark in my opinion. He has a not the best matchup, 23rd best matchup for tight ends, but George Kittle is incredible. George Kittle is, in my opinion, a top 5, top 3 tight end in the NFL. So even with the ups and downs of this season, you're not sitting George Kittle. Then we got Sam Laporta, another guy that's all over the place, going up against the Commanders this week in Washington, which is the 6th best matchup for tight ends on a per game basis. Over the last 4 weeks, he has been the tight end 4, then they had a bye week, tight end 32, tight end 4, and tight end 4. So 3 of his last 4 games as the tight end 4. The other game, he scored 5 fantasy points up against the Buccaneers. This is not a guy that I would say has a very safe role inside of his offense. Well, he's obviously the tight end 1. What I mean by that is he doesn't have like a safe target blanket that is just wrapped all over him, a nice cozy target blanket. He got 3 targets in week 7. He had 8 targets in week 9, 6 in week 6, and 6 in week 5. We've also seen him with 4 targets multiple times this season. Now, this is an offense that is ferocious. This is an offense that, when playing at its peak, could drop their nuts and score 40+ fantasy points. But again, this isn't a game where I feel like they're going to be battling, scratching and clawing their way into. But if they get up big early, Sam Laporta should be a big part of that. Then we got Dalton Kincaid going up against the Miami Dolphins in Miami. The Dolphins are basically just the best matchup ever, regardless of what position you're looking at. The 5th best matchup for tight ends on a per game basis. Last time out up against the Dolphins, he was the tight end 4 back in week number 3. 5 receptions on 6 targets for 66 yards and a touchdown. Last week, 6 of 6 for 101 yards and a tug up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Going to Miami, again, I expect this to be a certified beatdown of the Dolphins that, if I thought the Dolphins were any good, it would make me, be sad. But since I expect the Dolphins to be bad, since I want them to be bad so we can get rid of the bad man, Tua Tagovailoa, and get a new quarterback, it's okay. Even though I do love Tua, it just hurts, man. It just hurts. Now we move to Dallas Goedert going up against the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau. In terms of a matchup for tight ends, this is the 8th best matchup. Dallas Goedert truly is one of the hardest tight ends to predict. Now, he has been consistent this year. He's been a top 18 tight end in all games except for one. He has 7 touchdowns, and he has played in 7 games this season. What makes him hard to predict is the targets bounce around just so heavily. He could just as easily this week have 3 targets as he could 10, and neither of those outcomes would shock me. And even if he just has 3 targets, he could score multiple touchdowns like he did in his last game prior to the bye up against the Giants as the tight end 5, 3 of 3 for 28 yards and 2 touchdowns as the tight end number 5. So it definitely doesn't feel the best, but when a guy's been as consistent as him, I think it would be foolish to rank him outside the top 8. And you can, again, with tiers, you're like, Nick, I like Goddard over Kittle. I have Goddard as my tight end 4. That's not crazy to me. That's not crazy to me at all. Now we move to tier number 3, the low-end tight end 1s. Kyle Pitts, Harold Fannin, as well as Colston Loveland. Now, Kyle Pitts going up against the Indianapolis Colts. On paper, this is the 4th best matchup for tight ends. But, you know, with the hyper extreme touchdown ability of Drake London, where they're feeding him inside the red zone, that does definitely hurt Kyle Pitts, who has just 1 touchdown on the season. But 7+ targets in 3 straight games. So typically, Kyle Pitts is a guy that performs when the games are overseas. So I do like Kyle Pitts in this game. Again, though, I just don't feel like he quite is the same snuff as the guys before him. Then we got Harold Fannin going up against the Jets. Questionable right now. Currently has the Q tag. Hamstring listed as questionable. It came up earlier in the week that Fannin is dealing with the hamstring injury. If he is sidelined, that David Njoku would step up, but no indicators as of right now are blinking towards Harold Fannin is going to miss. Tight end 4 prior to the bye week. Dylan Gabriel loves tight ends, and he cannot lie. So tight end 4, tight end 24, tight end 7 over the last 3 games. Again, not a guy that I necessarily want to be just banging the drum heavily for, just because the Browns just fucking suck dick, like, let's be honest. But this is the 16th best matchup for tight ends. The Jets are now worse defensively, so Harold Fannin should be fine. Then we got Colston Loveland. Now, Cole Kmet is expected to play this week, which definitely throws a damper, in my opinion, on the Colston Loveland train, right? If we knew that Cole Kmet was going to be out, we would be banging the drum so heavily for Colston Loveland, who legitimately won the fucking game up against the Bengals last week. 6 receptions on 7 targets for 118 yards and 2 touchdowns, 30 fantasy points in PPR as the tight end 2. I love Colston Loveland. I think the talent is there. It's just if Cole Kmet is in, which he's going to be, the snaps might not be as high, the targets might not be as high, though I do still believe, you know, when you have a game like that, where you win the game, right, where you have that many yards, like, the team just has to give him more looks going forward. Now we move to tier number 4, which is just a conglomerate of a bunch of high-end tight end 2s. Mark Andrews, Cade Otton, Juwan Johnson, Dalton Schultz, Theo Johnson, Hunter Henry, and Mason Taylor. Only 3 targets last week up against the Dolphins, but he found all of the holes. It was like a glory hole, right? There were actually, that's not a great comparison. It was like a fucking Swiss cheese matchup because there were so many holes. The guy was just wide open. Shout out to Shia LaBeouf, tight end number 5 last week. 3 targets, though, in back-to-back games. Isaiah Likely's playing a bunch. Charlie Kohler's playing a bunch. Hard to truly trust him, which is why I don't have him ranked as a tight end 1. But going up against the Vikings is not a matchup that's hard. It's the 12th best matchup for tight ends. Then we just saw Sam Laporta absolutely dick him down last week. Then we got Cade Otton going up against the New England Patriots in terms of a matchup, the 7th best matchup for tight ends on a per-game basis. Cade Otton, without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, is just much more involved in this offense. As long as Baker Mayfield is able to step things up compared to how he was playing the last few games prior to the bye, I think Otton's a pretty reliable tight end 2 type of guy. Then we got Juwan Johnson going up against the Carolina Panthers. Now, this season has been a sandwich for Juwan Johnson. What I mean by that is he starts off the year, the first 3 games, tight end 1, 4, and 9, right? That's the bun, right? His last 3 games, tight end 9, 11, and 13. That's the other bun. And in between is a shit sandwich like in Click. Which one of you took a shit in my sandwich? I used to love that movie as a kid. Probably need to watch that again. I just used to think Click was funny. I still think Adam Sandler is very funny. I just do. I like all of his movies. I guess Happy Gilmore 2 really wasn't that good, but it was still pretty funny. Like, I still enjoyed it. I still liked it. But going up against the Carolina Panthers for Juwan Jennings is going to be the 13th best matchup for tight ends. I don't think anyone is ready to throw him in the top 12 just yet, but he's knocking on the door of being that. Really, the only thing restricting me is just the quarterback play is so bad that it's truly hard to trust him. Then we got Dalton Schultz going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Duval at home in Houston. This is the second best matchup for tight ends. The problem is Houston, we have a problem. There is no CJ Stroud. There is Davis Mills. And Davis Mills, the giraffe neck man, sure, he's like a okay backup. Like, I don't think going to and having Davis Mills come in is like the end of world scenario. It's more of just like the offense itself isn't percolating. Like, the offense doesn't have a great offensive line. They have Nico Collins, and they kind of have a suspect wide receiver core. Dalton Schultz, obviously a talented tight end. Like, when you have Davis Mills and you have a shitty offensive line, it's just not a recipe of sugar, spice, and everything nice like the Powerpuff Girls for some great success. Shout out to Borat, right? It's just not the recipe for a huge game. But the matchup is so good that you still should be playing Dalton Schultz. Then we got Theo Johnson going up against the Chicago Bears. Now, this guy is a prototypical boom or bust tight end. Very easy to figure out why. If Theo Johnson goes out there and scores, he's a top 12 tight end. If he goes out there and doesn't score and gets his typical 4 or 5 targets, he's probably scoring less than 10 points and may even score fewer than 5 fantasy points. He has 5 touchdowns through 9 games of the season. Jackson Dart clearly loves to throw the ball to him inside the red zone. It's a good game up against the Bears, projected to be high scoring, so I don't think I could be too low on him, and it's the 11th best matchup for tight ends. But truthfully, there's a lot of risk with him, which kind of holds me back from ranking him higher. Expert consensus rankings have him as the tight end 12. He is my tight end number 16. Obviously, there's only 15 tight ends that we've talked about thus far, but that's because Brock Bowers was in the rankings. Obviously, Brock Bowers didn't play too good. Now, a lot of people will be like, Nick, you were so wrong about Brock Bowers, talking about him as a must start. You are going to sit Brock Bowers after what he did a week prior. You are going to do that? We really? Right? Those are the kind of comments that do make me mad. In the 21st best matchup for tight ends, you are obviously going to play him. I understand if you say, like, before the game, Nick, I'm pretty worried about Brock Bowers. I'm going to go with this other guy. That's fine, right? Play your team how you want to play it. You are the manager of your team. I'm just trying to assist you, right? But when people are like, Nick, you're a fucking idiot for saying Brock Bowers is must start, were you really going to sit him, right? And if you were to set it before the game, I'd be like, you know what? Let me shake your hand, Let me congratulate you. That was a smart take. But everyone was going to play Brock Bowers, right? Like, you don't overthink things in fantasy football. I get it didn't go well, but you weren't going to sit him, right? Just like next week, as long as they're not on bye, which I think they may have already had their bye. I'm going to go check right now. Brock Bowers already has bye in week 8. Like, up against the Cowboys, you're not sitting Brock Bowers. I'm sorry to tell you, he's going to be ranked inside the top 5. And he could easily score multiple touchdowns in that game. Then we got Hunter Henry. Now, Hunter Henry kind of just gets glazed by the expert consensus rankings every week. He's always like a consensus top 12 guy, which just makes no sense at this point in the season. He has scored fewer than 10 points now in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight games. Now, we know he has big upside. He, cashed in on that in week number 3, cashed in his money in the bank, had a solid game in week number 4, had a solid game in week number 1. But since then, it's been kind of just meh. The reason why you keep kind of opening the door for him and kind of letting him enter your lineup is because, this is a mid-range matchup, the 18th best matchup for tight ends, and because of the offense he's attached to. He's attached to Drake May, a guy that everyone just loves to, massage the guy's nutsack, and they love on him, the Deshaun Watson style, right? Now, I don't think Hunter Henry is a bad tight end. I actually think he's a very good tight end. But I think Drake May is a great quarterback, but this is an offense that doesn't just feed Hunter Henry. You get the ball, you all get the ball. It's kind of a Oprah Winfrey level offense. Final guy here is going to be Mason Taylor going up against the Cleveland Browns, the Believeland Browns, the 17th best matchup for tight ends. The reason why Mason Taylor isn't ranked higher, because I do love Mason Taylor. I think he has the skills to pay the bills. It's just Justin Fields. It's the offense, right? If your defense just isn't good and your offense isn't great, like they should be. Problem is, this game, they're also probably not going to be trailing, right? This is probably going to be like a close game all game long. So you're not going to get like Mason Taylor getting 10 fucking targets in the fourth quarter, in my opinion. So Mason Taylor's kind of just meh, but he is a great tight end. Just a shitty situation for him to be in. Now we move into tier number 5 with David Njoku, Luke Musgrave, AJ Barner, and Zach Ertz. This is truly like break glass in case of emergency. Holy fuck. I can't believe I have to do this. David Njoku, Dylan Gabriel loves tight ends, but there's levels to this, like that Avicii song. levels to this, right? I have Harold Fannin up here, and Njoku's kind of down here. Now, Njoku's a talented player, but if Dylan Gabriel's going to feed Harold Fannin more, why would I rank David Njoku higher than this? Then we got Luke Musgrave going up against the Eagles. I would love to just talk up Luke Musgrave, because if you guys have watched my videos over the years, you would know that I'm a Luke Musgrave enjoyer. 30th best matchup for tight ends, though. So, with no Tucker Kraft going forward, Luke Musgrave is in the driver's seat, right? Max Verstappen. But the problem is, this is the kind of game where everyone gets hot and bothered by, ooh, look how much Jordan Love loves to use the tight end. And then you play Luke Musgrave, and then he gets fucking blanketed up against the Eagles, and then people are shocked, right? When it's just a bad matchup on paper. Then we got AJ Barner, another one of these true boom or bust guys. A guy that you probably just pencil in to get 3 targets. If he scores, boy, fantastico, you're very happy. If he doesn't score, you're like, shit, why did I even consider starting him? He has 2 fantasy points, which is just back-to-back games, right? Last week up against the Commanders, tight end 13, 12 fantasy points, 3 of 4 for 24 yards and a touchdown, 1 rush yard, right? Then the game prior to that, they had the bye, the week 7, prime time, 2 fantasy points, 1 of 3 for 7 yards and 1 rush for 2 yards as the tight end 43. Perfect encapsulation of the guy's season. Then we got Zach Ertz. Now, I love Zach Ertz. I still think Zach Ertz got it. Unk still got it, even as an old man. But, if you look at the splits, shout out to Mia Malkova, with Jaden Daniels versus without, it's night and day, right? When Jaden Daniels is in there, you could talk yourself into, oh, Zach Ertz, sneaky top 5 option, maybe. Sneaky. Without Jaden Daniels, with Marcus Mariota, you're like, okay, I pray to the gods he scores me 8 fantasy points. That's the scenario that we are in right now. And even if this was like the best matchup ever up against the Lions, which it isn't, it's the 20th ranked matchup, I would still be very nervous without Jaden Daniels. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It helped me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Check out one of the videos on the screen if you haven't seen them already. Love you long time. As always, good boy.